Welcome, everyone, to today's Neovation webinar. I'm Susan Harrell. It is my absolute pleasure and privilege to program these webinars for you. So today we are talking about leveraging AI to transform your instructor-led training into custom e-learning. Jen reminded me that I need to put the E in there. I'm very bad. For those of you who don't know who we are with Neovation Learning Solutions. Neovation's slogan is, we want people to be powered by knowledge, and we are a full-service learning solutions provider. We have software platforms like Smarter U Learning Management System, and Jen's department is the custom learning division that helps our clients build great courses. We have other services that we can offer as well. We've been around for a long time. We help clients all around the world with all aspects of their learning and development. And my tiny little plug is for Joy Suite, which is our new platform coming to market this fall. We're now starting to accept trial account signups. For the trial account, we'll be opening up in a couple weeks. You can read more about Joy Suite. There's a blog link there. It is an AI-infused knowledge management system that will integrate with your LMS and other tools to bring together all of your knowledge into one place. And it is quite revolutionary and quite evolutionary. Everybody's talking about AI. We think we've got a really fresh take on it. So I encourage you to join us for the Joy webinar that's going to be coming up in a couple months, and to take a look at Joy Suite when you have time. So in terms of housekeeping, the session is being recorded. We will send it out probably, if it's Thursday today, then Friday, or possibly Monday's a holiday, Tuesday, as soon as we get it polished up and ready to go out. So you don't have to worry about taking notes. You will get that. There will also be a prompt pack toolkit that will be available to you as well, that captures all of the things that Jen will be showing you today. So again, you don't have to worry about taking screenshots. We'll make sure that you have all of that information. We just want you to be able to sit back and soak it in and enjoy the webinar experience. Once the webinar is over, there will be a survey that will pop up on your screen once you close your browser. Please take the couple minutes to fill it in. It gives us such important feedback, tells us how we can improve what we do, tells us what you're looking for, how we can deliver better informational and educational webinars for you. Please ask questions and be active in the chat. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you're doing. If you have questions, I'll be capturing those and making sure that we get them answered. We'll try to answer them as we go through the presentation. But of course, if there are some big ones, we'll save them up for a bit of a Q&A at the end. So with that, I'd like to introduce my good friend and colleague, Jennifer Bell. Jen and I have worked together for, oh heavens, years and years, maybe almost, feels like almost a decade at this point.
Oh,
She is the leader of our custom learning division. Her team are the great people of creatives that build courses for our clients and help with every aspect of your online course presentation. And they're there to help you deliver your courses and look great doing it. So Jen, we are so excited to have you talking about this today. I'll let you steal the screen share anytime, and look forward to everything that you're going to share. This is going to be fun. So over to you, Jen.
thank you so much, Susan, for that wonderful intro. I greatly appreciate it. I'm really excited to be here. Our team has, really developed a skill in being AI curious, and I'm so excited to be here with all of you who are AI curious as well. The goal from this session is to provide help that's non-technical and immediately useful. So hopefully we can hit that home with you. And, as Susan said, we're going to have some resources after the webinar so that you can take some of the things that we've shown today and try them out for yourself. So we are talking today about moving instructor-led training into e-learning. A big part of that is really thinking about the why, like why do it? Instructor-led training has really been the backbone of training for decades. It gives direct access to learners and subject matter experts and allows that download of critical knowledge. But we also know that development in technology, advances in AI included, are really transforming training. And it also means that learners want access to training in a different way, and organizations need to keep up in order to meet those needs. So many companies are looking at opportunities in capturing instructor-led training into lasting, scalable, ongoing resources, which is really our why on this. So there's two sides to the why. One is organizational wins. So it creates consistency and validation where everybody gets the same messaging. And you can actually track and measure completions and understanding when you're capturing that training in an electronic format. Of course, costs, travel, venues, materials, all of those are really expensive. And with e-learning, you completely remove all of that from your P&L. And for me, the big one is capturing knowledge. We've got this depth and breadth of skills and experience that are in the heads of your subject matter experts. And having the opportunity to capture that in this permanent, scalable asset really protects organizations from knowledge loss. And of course, we have to keep focused on the impacts to the learners. Engagement is a huge one. You can take something that was previously maybe more of a passive lecture and make it interactive, add scenarios, quizzes, videos, and create a way to draw a learner in. Provide them that e-learning as a permanent resource so that they can go back and find what they need weeks or months later. And it also provides flexibility. So not only can they complete the training on their own time, on their own terms, but it's also available when they need it. So if you have a new person coming on board and that ILT isn't scheduled to happen for another 4 weeks or 2 months, they don't have to wait for that to get access to the information that they need. So, on the flip side of that, just because you can doesn't mean that you should. So, let's chat a little bit about when it's a good idea to stay with instructor-led training or to consider a blended approach where e-learning and instructor-led, you may have heard the term flipped classroom, can be a really good fit. So one example would be hands-on skills. There's certain things like if you're training on how to perform CPR, watching a video is going to give you the theory, but you probably need a workshop of some kind of a muscle memory opportunity to be able to get together and practice. Another example would be a project or training that actually requires deep collaboration of some kind. So you're rolling out a new product and you're doing a bunch of training on it. But there's also some workshopping and whiteboard sticky note energy that you need to capture in a discussion. And it's really difficult to replace that with an online environment. You also have to think about your learners and their needs. So maybe you've got learners that are on a factory floor in a remote field location, or maybe somewhere where there isn't really good internet connectivity. So, how are you going to bridge the gap on that digital divide and ensure that training is accessible for everybody? Another element that could require that hands-on piece is things like critical supervision, where safety is a critical consideration where you need to have somebody there that's showing someone how to use a new piece of equipment and have that stop you're about to make a big mistake moment. You can create a lot of simulations within e-learning that will give the emulated experience, but there could be elements where that hands-on in person is really, really critical. And of course, mentorship. Training doesn't just come in the form of courses. In many cases, having a mentor, someone that you can develop and work through deep critical thinking, back and forth dialogue, and that relationship with that ongoing coaching from someone that's been living and breathing the content in the real world just simply can't be replaced. But all of these probably have opportunities to be able to use a bit of a mixed model where you've got some e-learning for theory, level everyone up to the same understanding, then bring them in and do the hands-on, maybe some reinforcement with e-learning down the road. So we've made the decision. We need to convert some instructor-led training into e-learning. Um, but that doesn't mean that that journey is going to be easy. We all know that it's a lot of work, and there's challenges that are faced with these types of projects. So first off, you've got very likely some complex content. You've got a 200-page manual or a tangled process map and are given the direction of we need a 30-minute course on this. And that sheer volume of information can be paralyzing on where to even start. Tapping into subject matter expert wisdom can also be a challenge. They know a lot, but they're also incredibly busy, already are fully entertained and occupied with their daily role. And they have something called the curse of knowledge, where they've forgotten what it's like to be a beginner. And it can be difficult to get that structured information in a way that needs to be presented to a new person or whatever your learner persona is for the training in an effective way. There is also a loss of live dialogue. So there is a certain magic that happens when you get people together. You get an insightful question from the back of the room, the way that participants learn from each other's experiences, and it can be challenging to figure out how best to capture that magic in an online experience where it's one learner in front of their computer and the computer's playing the role of the rest of the room. And of course, activities. How do you take that sticky note brainstorming session and make it work on a screen? You don't want to just create drag and drop activities and multiple choice questions, but you want to create meaningful digital interactions. And that's where that transformation comes into play. So we've got AI, we want AI to help. I'm of the mind that, AI can do an awful lot of things and probably a lot of things that we just haven't had the imagination to be like, I wonder if this is possible yet. But it isn't an easy button. The critical expertise that the human brings to the fold isn't just helpful, it's everything. You're in the driver's seat. You're the one that is going to understand what the company's Q4 priorities are, the backstory of why the project is so important to the VP. You're the strategist who ensures that the training actually serves the needs of the business. You're also the human that is bringing genuine empathy. AI processes data, but despite how polite it is in its responses, it doesn't actually feel. It doesn't understand the anxiety of a new manager, the frustration of a senior employee that's coming in and having to learn a new system. You can design the experience with human empathy, and that's a critical superpower that you bring to projects. Ethical curation and validation is also huge because AI can be wrong. It will propagate biases. It will confidently stand behind incorrect information. So, your judgment, your filter to ensure that content is accurate, appropriate, and responsible is really critical as that ethical backstop. And of course, stakeholder management. So, a huge part of the job in creating any kind of a training project is managing the people. You need to get buy-in. You're navigating conflicting feedback from subject matter experts or stakeholders. You're navigating and negotiating deadlines and needing to pivot. And you're reading the room and building trust with the team that you're going to get the end result that you're looking for. So, AI is here as a help. It's not here to take over, in my opinion, but I really want it to do a whole bunch of stuff that I don't want to do, which is what we're here to talk about today. So here's a project that our team executed with a client called Beacon of Light, where the human was so critical in that loop, where the challenge was taking something that was live training, and it was fairly informal in the framework, but really wanted to create something that was scalable and a lot more consistent and impactful as an e-learning experience. Now, for this one, it was mental health education, but within that faith-based environment. And there's a real need to make sure that there's a good balance between mental health education information and the faith-based elements that need to be interwoven and balanced out with that messaging. So, in order to execute on that, our team went to the client and we spent a 2-day workshop where we just gave space for the stakeholders and subject matter experts to tell their story, talk about what's important to them, how we needed to find that critical balance between the two sides of the content, and then brought that all back and leveraged AI as a tool to help us in that initial curriculum consulting, needs analysis, module planning, and then execution of the project. But it started with the human and it's driven by the human for the entire workflow. So, what does that mean? AI does a lot of really good things. Um, so here's just some of the time savers. And if you aren't leveraging these, try them out. Be curious, ask the question, just give it a shot. One of them is analyzing content. So, in the world of instructor-led training, there's typically going to be some kind of an asset that you're working from. Most likely, it's a PowerPoint presentation that's got some rough notes for the speaker and some elements that are shown on the slide. And you can use that and feed it into your AI assistant. Say, here's my 50 slide PowerPoint deck with notes, and ask it to propose an outline or do an analysis so that you can figure out what your starting point is. It does a really good job of turning that kind of chaos into structure as a starting point. Another thing is creating interaction, so things like scenarios. And we know how powerful scenarios can be because it's real world. It brings the learner into that actual experience in the e-learning, but they're really hard to write. And if you don't have access to a subject matter expert to be able to fill in those blanks for you, where do you start? Well, AI is actually really good at it. You can prompt it for a customer service scenario about an angry customer, and you're going to get a great initial draft within 30 seconds. And it's initial draft, but it is so much better than blank page. Scripts is another thing that's a huge game changer. You can take that bulleted list from your speaker's notes and ask AI to generate a conversational narration script. Give it some additional context, an example of what good looks like, and with a well-constructed prompt, it can help you bridge the gap between that, rough outline into what you might actually generate for narration audio. Assessments is another, huge thing. Writing quiz questions is tedious, in my opinion. But AI can take a large chunk of your content and generate insightful multiple choice questions. You can give it instructions to use learning theory like Bloom's taxonomy so that you're hitting the right levels of practice. Create the questions, produce feedback for both incorrect and correct answers that learners create. It does a really good job. If you haven't played with AI on anything, this is an excellent place to start. And if you're looking to have some fun, play with the media. If you attended our last webinar, you would have seen Taylor Mimko, who's our creative director, show a bunch of examples about how AI can be a huge help in media generation, whether it be tools that allow you to modify an existing image, create animations, do rough drafts of infographics. There's so much that you can create, and it's an awful lot of fun. As a non-designer, I can tell you that I'm astounded with what it is that AI is able to generate. And of course, localization. So you've got your initial e-learning, but maybe you need to change the tone and some of the content to fit a specific learner audience, or you just need to translate it for that localization. You've got the ability with AI to be able to do those things a lot quicker than you would have. Massive, massive productivity boosts. Okay, so let's jump into some actual examples. The first one that I want to share with you, and this is all based off of a actual project where we were working with a client that needed to develop some training for their internal team focused on change management and resiliency and leadership. And they had previously been presenting this as an instructor-led training. It was fairly loose in its structure, and it wasn't a tried and true ILT program. So it had been rolled out and it had been delivered, but they already knew that there was some work on the messaging and the flow of the content that they wanted to address while we were converting it into an e-learning experience. So, normally we would be able to spend time with the instructor. We would record them presenting to it. We would take a recording of one of the presentations that they had, but in this case, we didn't have access to a subject matter expert. They weren't available for us to be able to dig in. So the presentation really was all that we had to work from. So how do we do that? Where do we even start from in trying to ideate where we're going to go with an e-learning plan on this conversion? So we asked AI, We wanted to know, have a look at the content, give me a summary of what the risks are, make sure that you stay within the content that is being delivered, but do an analysis. Tell me about engagement and application gaps. Talk to us about challenges with the structure and the flow, and give me an idea on the intent and the outcomes so that I can make sure that with the e-learning that we're completely aligned. So here we go. This is the chat. Now, I am showing all of this to you in a what I lovingly call a cooking show example where we already have one in the oven, fully assembled and ready to pull out. I would love to do these as live demos, but I'm just too impatient and don't want to spend our time together watching the LLM think about it. So, um, I'll walk through this as best I can and try to show you in a way that's actually going to make sense and display well for you. But again, you're going to get all of these prompts that you're seeing in an AI prompt pack at the end. So we broke the prompt down into kind of a standard prompt engineering flow with role, audience, task, um, format, and tone. And for this prompt here, we've actually used it more than once in a different way for the same project. But what I'm asking it to do is everything that I just talked about. I'm going to feed you the PowerPoint presentation, and I want you to do a critical analysis. And I like it when prompts are ready to use and I don't have to modify it with specifics within the prompt every time I want to use it. I like it when I can just put the prompt in and then have the AI interview and ask for what it needs for that specific outcome. So that's what this one is doing. It said, great, please provide your PowerPoint presentations, which I have done. And now it's giving me my report. And this is exactly the format that I asked for, where I've got an executive summary and it's calling out, there's a workbook. And also, this content is highly reliant on an instructor. So I already know that that's going to be a bit of a challenge. Instructor dependency analysis, the risk assessment, learning and engagement gaps. So this one is interesting because it's got the workbook activities, feedback loop, and I don't have the workbook. And that reliance on social and group interaction, which makes sense for the content, that there's a lot of that going on because in resilience and change, there's a lot of opportunities where there isn't an exactly right answer on something. But what I found super helpful, what our team found super helpful, was highlighting the fact that there's some challenges with the overall flow of the content, that there's some redundancies within it, and that there's some structural errors. So I've got some main outcomes, and based off of all of that, we were able to create back to here. So we were able to make some changes in how we storyboarded out the e-learning. So first off is that structural transformation. The content went from a fairly loosely defined 6 module presentation into something that was cohesive, has 4 chapters and a narrative. It created a logical flow, but it also meant that instead of having everything in one e-learning, we broke it into 2 separate modules so that one is focused on the theory, and then there's a completely separate one focused on practical application, building on that resilient leadership. Another thing we did based off of the AI recommendations was changing the learner-centric framework. So the instructional design introduced this central thread, the personalized action plan, and it takes the learner through application of the concepts through their own experiences right from the very beginning. And that meant that it went from something that was passive and information transfer into something that is active and a reflective workshop. Yes, absolutely. So to answer your question about the information, we just simply created a PDF from the PowerPoint presentation as a printout that included the notes. And that was the content that was fed into the AI as its content source. So really easy to do. Simple click print button. So with the interactivity piece, obviously there was a lot of references to workbooks, and we replaced all of those with on-screen reflection activities, and other interactive elements to really draw them in and reinforce specific concepts. And then finally, we clarified the intent. So rather than having something that was a little bit ambiguous, we got crystal clear learning content. Storyboard defines the learner profile, the business problem, the seat time, the know this, do this, and outcomes, and that level of clarity. And for us, with the question about sharing content with corporate information into AI, we're always transparent with clients when we're leveraging AI for any of those projects. And we also are using AI tools that, from a security standpoint, that information isn't being shared to train any LLMs either. So for your own corporate best practices, you really should be checking with your organization's requirements when it comes to use of AI, just as you would for any technology. So we've got our storyboard and we've got all the content converted into this flow, but now we need to add some interactions to it. So um, the nice thing about this particular type of content is that we have very readily available information. So it's about change management, it's about resilience. I could research and find multiple different sources of information readily available on that, which means that I can also more easily use AI to help me fill in the gaps. But I also wanted to make sure that it stayed true to the content. So when working with the product, we said we want you to create an interactivity where you're playing the role of an instructional designer, where you're going to create something that adheres to frameworks and principles within the content that we've provided, that the task itself is to review the storyboard and then ask me questions following a process that I've given to you in the creation of an interactivity, where I'm an expert instructional designer, so that's the audience that you're speaking to. And I want the output to be a storyboard for an interaction that has three columns. Um, and I want your tone to be professional, authoritative, and instructional. So the whole idea with this, and this is not the whole prompt. The full prompt, which will be in the prompt pack, has got a lot more detail in it. Just giving you an idea as to kind of our approach on this one. So I wanted to create a prompt that I could use in multiple different ways so that when we're trying to create an interactivity, I can reuse the same prompt because it's a lot of work to create prompts that work well. And they require a lot of, refinement and trying them out and then pivoting and adjusting them a little bit. So I want something that's going to have more value when I create it. And that's exactly what I did. Here's the prompt. So just showing it real quick. AI instructional designer. Here's a bunch of principles that I want it to adhere to. I want it to analyze the storyboard, um, to start a consultative interview. I want it to ask if I have an idea, to give me some suggestions, to find out which portion of content I want to target to create an interactivity. And here's some suggestions that I've told it that I want it to come up with. And I want to make sure that whatever it suggests, it fits within the flow of where it belongs. Great. So it's ready to begin. It wants the storyboard as the resource, which I have uploaded. And here is the response asking me, what's my idea? What's the purpose? What's the target area? And it gave me those suggestions to kind of unlock my imagination. So here I've given it just more of not a formal prompt, but more of a random stream of consciousness for what I'm looking for, where I want a reflection. It should be a blueprint for self-care. It should cover the 4 items that are within the training itself. I want them to get a bit of guidance and some suggestions and, give them an opportunity to make some decisions. So off it goes and it generates something with Gemini, which I'm using today, you've got this opportunity to leverage Canvas where you can get it to build like a prototype of what it is that you're trying to accomplish, or just have an easier way to be able to consume information, which in this case is in a table because I want to use this and we're trying to create a storyboard from it. So I've got a slide number, I've got information on what should be shown on the screen, what the learner is going to need to do, and then a narration script. So maybe not the final content that I'm going to be using for this particular interaction, but it gives me such a great starting point to be able to pull from. And because looking at tables with wall of words is horrible, instead, I'm going to show you representative storyboard. So the interaction itself is based off of 4 pillars of change. And here I am giving the learner some instructions about what it is that they need to do. And then step 1 is reflect on tools for self-care. Now, what I also wanted to do was to capture some of that magic from a group session where one person on their own trying to come up with some information with no context, no help, no discussion, could just be sitting there going, I don't know. But if they were within a group, you would have somebody say, oh, time management. I'm gonna, self-care, make sure I'm looking after my own schedule, that I'm going to, maybe do some journaling, maybe do some mindfulness or exercises, and maybe seek out some online training or some coaching. So we've given them that magic of the group as a support within this experience, but give them space to be able to record their own journey and then capture that information so that they could have it as a resource at the end. So we walk through all 4 pillars in a similar way and then provide a little bit of a summary that includes a call to action. So pick something, put it into action, refine, and apply any insights that you get. So same project, except in a different part of the content, we want to create a scenario. So for this one, we have 0 content. We've got the theory in the deck, and we know we want to do something that's engaging and that is really relatable. Um, but at the same time, it is, a total blank page on this one. So I'm going to use the exact same prompt that I did in our previous example. So I won't even open it because you've seen it once already. A neat thing in here though is I use the exact same prompt, exact same LLM, exact same version of that LLM, different chat, and I got a slightly different response. So don't be afraid to try the same prompt multiple times. To try it in different LLMs, you'll get different answers. But you will get slightly different responses as well, even within the same thing. So I gave it my source of truth with the storyboard. It reviewed it, gave me the same information question because of the well-constructed prompt. And here's my stream of consciousness. So I want to create a scenario where they can practice that resilient change leadership and apply the 4 stages, which I've made sure that I'm calling out because I want it to adhere to the material. I also don't want the scenario to be too serious. And I want to make sure that they get some questions, that they get some immediate feedback. There's no right or wrong answers, and some kind of a summary at the end. So, as what we saw before, I now have a table with 3 columns, except there's more columns because of all the feedback and such. And again, you don't want to be looking at a wall of words in this really complex table. So let's pull it up and look at it in storyboarded format. So here I've got my 4 stages of change that I'm highlighting as the content, and I'm introducing the scenario. By the way, all of the narration script is included down below. So I've used everything pulled from the AI and then done my refinements, my human validation to create the full experience with on-slide and narrative text. So here's my scenario. I get introduced to it. I've got 2 characters that I'm going to introduce. They're not very happy about the new digital platform. They don't think it makes any sense. And then I started stage one. So present a question to the learner about denial. How should you respond? And within here, I'm giving some specific direct feedback to the learner as well before we proceed on to the next stage, which is resistance, with some more challenges coming from the team, resistance to change. How should you respond to that? What about exploration on this? Someone found something very helpful, which is, really great to hear. So how do you respond to that piece of it? And then, finally, you're getting around to some commitment. And in final summary, we're giving some overall thoughts just to tie it all together for the learner, to bring it back into a single narrative. And one more example. Same project, same client, same needs, same prompt, except this time we're going to generate a case study. So there's a lot of theory in the deck, but now we want to put that into practice with an actual case study. So for this one, again, I'm going to close that little canvas thingy so that we can have a better view. I gave it the same prompt and I got another slightly different response from that, provided it with the storyboard. And it gave me the same answer. And now my stream of consciousness response for what I'm looking for is a case study. I want them to read it, reflect on breakdowns in the change journey, principles that were overlooked. There's 4 stages of announcement, team meeting, transition, and outcome. I want it to be something, again, not super deep or challenging from a content standpoint. So I'm going to focus on something like rapid development of an LMS. And I want them to reflect on, what were the mistakes and what would they do differently? AI congratulated me on my excellent choice for the interaction that I want to create. And then using Canvas, it created the table that gives me the slide numbers, the on-slide content and action, as well as the narration script that I could use to transform and create an actual storyboarded case study. So it's the tech upgrade that failed. Unlike our previous example, this one did not go well, spoiler alert. But it's walking through the learner through those 4 different stages where I'm setting the stage. People are surprised, they don't know what's happening. Someone tries to get a training session going, no one's in charge, people are unprepared, there's anxiety and chaos ensues. Um, Rollout starts, people get stuck. Someone's trying to push the boat forward on adoption, but isn't really consistent about it. And then ultimately, everything failed. A cautionary tale in technology rollout. So here we have the learner reflecting on it, and we're doing it with the free space for them to come up with something, and there's no incorrect answer. But we want to support them just like we would in a live session. So we're giving them some highlights of what a learner experience could be. So walking through all of those, and providing that summary at the end. So following through into practice, no right or wrong answer, 4 stages in a prompt, support them along the process, and prepare the full scenario. Now, possibly one of my favorite ones is storyboard QA. So this is one of my favorite things to get an AI intern to do because I hate copy editing, especially when it's my own work. And honestly, I'm not very good at it. So I have about 1,000 other things that I'd rather spend my time on. So I will happily give this to my AI intern, and it does a really, really, really good job at it. So this one is definitely in the top 10. So with this one, I'm going to get it to take on the persona of instruction designer and QA professional, that I want it to do a analysis that covers things like grammar, consistency, flow, tone. I'm still the audience, and I want it to, give me the information in a table format so that I can very easily put all the feedback into action. And this is the result. So my prompt is all of those things with so many more words to put that into action. It said, yep, I'm ready to go. I provided it my full storyboard, and then it went through and gave me this detailed report. So it tells me what slide it is, where it's located on the slide, what the original text was, its recommendation for a correction, and why it's recommending that change. I'm going to be able to make a decision on which ones I implement and which ones I ignore, but I'm going to be able to really easily find all of those little pivots. This is huge because you don't want to spend all this time creating great training, have it go live, and then lose trust with the learner audience because you keep getting feedback about that grammatical thing that you just missed catching during the build process. So here it's calling out inconsistencies, spelling errors, clarity and readability, grammar, lots of grammar, but all of these actionable intel items that I can put into practice in my storyboard. So taking a project from instructor-led PowerPoint presentation through to storyboarding it, figuring out how we need to present the information, creating some multiple different types of engaging interactions, and then doing final QA on it. All of that has been drastically helped with my workload reduced because of using AI. So here's some tips. When you're using AI, experiment. Try different phrasing, give examples of what good looks like, be really specific. Prompts are how you program an AI, if you will, without being a programmer. So you don't have to be a programmer to use them, but you really have to be specific in what you're looking for. Don't be afraid to provide feedback. So if you don't get what you're looking for, let it know. Give it more detail, give it more context. And if you get stuck in an endless loop without the result that you're looking for, clear the cobwebs by starting a brand new prompt. Just wipe it out and start over. I also recommend that you take something complex and break it down into smaller pieces. So if you're doing a multi-staged task with an AI, get it to focus on the first stage first, have the iteration and back and forth until you're happy with it, and provide approval before you move on to the next one. Another thing is markdown format, and you'll see this in the prompt pack resource that we've actually included prompt markdown format with the prompts. If you're not familiar with what that is, everything that you see within here for formatting, from bolding to headers to bullet points, is all done with what's called the WYSIWYG editor. What you see is what you get. You highlight text and you click the B for bold and it bolds it, or add in the bullet points. But if you've ever typed out a prompt using a WYSIWYG and then pasted it into an AI, you'll notice that all of that formatting gets stripped out completely. Yeah, and you cannot hurt AI's feelings at all, by the way. So Markdown is a way to include formatting with plain symbols. It works really well with LLMs because it's clean formatting language that an LLM can understand, and it will actually improve clarity, which will get you better results. It's been my absolute pleasure to chat with you. I hope that you've been a little bit inspired with AI and instructional design and using it to convert ILT to e-learning. Our team is here to help. We know the value of training. We know what it can do, but sometimes finding the time, expertise, and resources can feel really challenging. Our team specializes in e-learning solutions that are tailored to your needs, and we can help, whether it's quick, straightforward course or something that's large and complex. We create interactive experiences, and we can work with clients that use any LMS supporting ScoreMax API formats. We have specialists on our team that include project managers that guide you every step of the way, so you don't need to know how to create e-learning. We can bring that expertise. We have instructional designers that turn knowledge into engaging narratives, so you don't need to know instructional design theory. We can provide that expertise. And we have e-learning designers who bring your content to life with cutting edge tools and beautiful design. And of course, QA assistance as well. So we make sure that everything is flawless before it actually goes live. Here's just some of the things that we can help out with. We also have availability for some free consulting. So if you just want to have a chat and get a little bit of guidance to get you unstuck on something, then reach out. We'd love to have a conversation with you. Just a note on AI overall. So we know AI is going to have a major impact on humanity. And there's a whole bunch of tools that are out there. But talking back to what Susan mentioned at the top of our time together, Joy Suite is a tool that unifies it and brings it all together. So that Be Powered by Knowledge mission that our organization has is really enhanced through Joy because Joy's mission is to leverage AI to empower you to work smarter and learn faster. So, really quickly, what that means is on the work smarter side of it is Knowledge Center, which lets you bring all of your knowledge into one place, unify it, upload them, link them from wherever they exist. And then through the Knowledge Assistant is an AI powered capability that not only gets your team answers, but actually unlocks and enables workflows. So it's all about working smarter. On the other side of things, from a Learn Faster, we have the Knowledge Coach, which is an amazing AI tutor that you can use to take any file, could be a PDF, a video, an infographic, recording of an instructor-led training session, and it walks learners through a conversational learning technique to guide people until they totally understand it, which is a total game changer. The whole world of e-learning is designed to help deliver really the equivalent of one-on-one training from mentor to mentee, and the coach actually does that so that everyone has a personalized learning experience. But we also know that any training will fade without practice, and that's where this knowledge scenario comes in and the scenario coach. It provides real-time practice in conversational skills like a salesperson in a call, or situational skills like a support person troubleshooting an issue. And Joy is really that unified platform where you can centralize your knowledge, you make it accessible to everyone, you're accelerating your workflows, and you're transferring that knowledge through coaching. So just encourage you to check out joysuite.com to learn a little bit more about how you can support your team in unlocking some superpowers. So with that, if there's any questions that we missed, I'd be delighted to answer them. I just really appreciate all of you for coming today, for being AI curious. We just hope that you've been a little bit inspired and a little bit empowered to go out and get AI working for you, building your very own AI interns.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Jen. That was a fabulous presentation. Even though you and I have gone through it a couple times getting ready for today, I always learn something more from everything that you do. So I appreciate that so much. So if there are any other questions or if people want to put up their hand to book some time with Jen, please do that in the chat. We'll give you a minute to think of any questions or things you want to follow up on. You can hopefully all see my screen. We'd love to know what you'd love to learn. So if you want to reach out to me at hello@neovation.com and let me know what you'd like to see in an upcoming webinar. We've got some great ones coming up. September is on project management in learning and development. Our very own custom e-learning PM, Jesse, is going to take us through some great processes. I hate the phrase tips and tricks, but strategies and tools that she uses to help her keep our entire custom learning team on track so you can help your team and your own work. Joy, we're going to be talking about new features in October. And in November, we're going to do a very special session on accessibility and how it matters in learning and development with our own Ashley Lodge, who has actually done some TED Talks on accessibility in online training. She's a bit of a true industry expert. We're so pleased she's agreed to do a session with us. So everything around L&D, it's getting us to the end of the year, but I'm starting to program next year, so let me know what you need. You can see our past webinars, like the great webinar from last week with Taylor and Jen on prompt power, how to write better prompts with a super prompt kit as well. You can see all of our past webinars on the Neovation site, and the link will be in the presentation at the end. Jen, I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm going to say you knocked it out of the park. Good job. Really appreciate your time, everyone joining us today. We're going to give you back maybe 10 minutes of your time. Reach out to us anytime, either to Jan or to myself, hello@neovation.com. Thank you for your time. Hope to see you in a future session. Register early, register often. We've got something happening every month. And Jan, thank you for everything that you do to educate and inform our audiences and sharing your expertise. I love how you base it all in real life examples from client work that we've done. So it's actual practice and not just theory. I appreciate you. So with that, I will be ending the webinar. The survey will pop up. Please fill it out. It will, it gives us real insight into what you think and how we can improve. And that's our whole goal, is to do what you want, to provide what you need in terms of powering you with knowledge. And with that, I'm Susan. Have a great day. We'll hopefully see you next month. And Teresa, we'll make sure that we get you that link to get into last month's webinar. I've got you. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.